In the weeks leading up to this year's Masters tournament, Bryson DeChambeau, according to sources speaking directly to Golf Digest, walked into a room with LIV Golf executives and made a request that nobody outside that room was supposed to know about. He asked for a new contract. A contract worth well more than the $300 million that Jon Rahm was given when he jumped to LIV at the end of 2023. And LIV Golf, the league that paid Rahm that $300 million in the first place, never even seriously considered it. Now his current deal is set to expire in August. He just missed the cut at Augusta for the first time in 3 years. And the entire funding of LIV Golf is under reports of Saudi money being pulled. What happens to Bryson DeChambeau over the next few months may be the single most important storyline in all of professional golf. Stay with me, because the details of where this can go are genuinely surprising. Let me start where this story really begins. Back in the summer of 2022, when Bryson DeChambeau signed his original contract with LIV Golf, the reported number was $125 million over 4.5 years. At the time, that was a seismic number. It was one of the largest contracts in the history of professional golf. DeChambeau himself said on a podcast shortly after signing that the reported figure was, and I quote him directly here, a little low. So the real number was probably higher. But the timeline was clear. 4.5 years, which puts us right now at the final stretch of that deal. And in those final months before his contract runs out, Bryson DeChambeau has been doing something very deliberate. He has been turning himself, publicly, loudly, on YouTube, in interviews, in press conferences, into the most valuable single asset the LIV Golf League has left. Brooks Koepka is gone. He went back to the PGA Tour at the start of this year. Cam Smith is locked in. Jon Rahm is locked in. But Bryson is the free agent. Bryson has the leverage, and the people around him know it. Here is the part that caught us off guard when we checked the numbers this morning. More than 90% of the people watching this video right now are not subscribed. 90%. And this story, the private contract request, the number LIV walked away from, what happens to one of the most recognizable faces in American golf in the next 4 months. This is not a story the major networks are going to lead with. They will lead with leaderboards. They will lead with green jackets. So if you want the real behind-the-curtain side of what's actually happening in professional golf, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and share this with one person who follows this sport seriously. Now let's continue. So what did DeChambeau actually ask for? Golf Digest, and I want to be very careful with this because the exact number has not been confirmed, reported that sources told them he was aiming at a figure well above Jon Rahm's $300 million contract. That is the language they used. Well above $300 million. Other outlets earlier this year reported figures ranging from $280 million all the way up to $500 million. Lee Westwood, one of LIV's own players, publicly called the lower figure nonsense. So we do not know the precise number. What we do know, and what Golf Digest confirmed this week from inside sources, is that DeChambeau pushed for a new deal. LIV did not take it seriously. And now every single party involved is watching the clock. Meanwhile, less than 8 days ago at Augusta National, DeChambeau walked to the 18th tee on Friday needing only a bogey, just a bogey, to make the cut and play the weekend at the Masters. He hit his drive right into the trees. He punched out beautifully to a greenside bunker. And from that bunker, he made a triple bogey, a 7 on a par 4. He missed the cut by 2 shots. His first missed cut at Augusta since 2023. And after that round, this is the detail I keep coming back to, he packed up and left the property before a single reporter could ask him a single question. Now here is where it gets even more interesting. Because back on January 8th of this year, the PGA Tour, under its new CEO Brian Rolap, quietly created something called the Returning Member Program. It was a pathway. A way back for specifically 4 players and only 4. Brooks Koepka, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Cam Smith. That window opened on January 13th. It closed on February 2nd. Only Koepka took the deal. And on the way out, the PGA Tour made their position very clear. This offer was not likely to be repeated. DeChambeau had that door open. He walked past it. So in plain English, what are his actual options now? Because this is the question. And I want to be honest with you about it. Option 1. LIV survives the funding reports, finds new money, and hands Bryson a smaller deal than he wants, but big enough to stay. Realistic, but only if the Saudi money holds. Option 2. LIV folds, or scales back dramatically, and the PGA Tour reopens a path for him. But here is what the numbers tell us. To come back to the PGA Tour, DeChambeau would likely have to give up between $50 million and $85 million in player equity. That is what Brooks Koepka had to surrender. And DeChambeau has made it very clear multiple times in press conferences that he felt, in his own words, marginalized on the PGA Tour. So even if the door opens, walking through it is going to cost him real money and real pride. Option 3. This is the one that almost nobody is talking about out loud. He walks away from weekly professional golf entirely. He plays only the 4 major championships each year. He builds out his YouTube channel, which already has 2.5 million subscribers and over 500 million views across his videos. And he becomes essentially the first hybrid superstar in the history of this sport. A major championship golfer, a content creator, a brand of one. He has, in his own words on Front Office Sports, called that third option, and I am quoting him, an incredibly viable option. Let that sit with you for a moment. Now I want you to tell me something in the comments, and I genuinely want your answer. If you were Bryson DeChambeau, 32 years old, 2-time US Open champion, 2.5 million YouTube subscribers, contract running out, LIV under funding pressure, PGA Tour door already closed once this year, what would you do? Do you go back? Do you sign a new LIV deal? Or do you walk away from tour golf and become the first superstar who plays only the majors? Drop your answer below. I read every single one, and I am fascinated by what you all see coming. Here is what I think most of the big networks are missing about this story. This is not just a contract dispute. This is not just LIV versus the PGA Tour. This is the first time in the modern history of professional golf that one of its biggest stars has real leverage over every single pathway available to him. He has money. He has a platform. He has the majors on his resume. And he has 4 months, August is the deadline, to decide what the second half of his career looks like. If you watched this whole video, thank you for staying with me. If this changed your perspective on where professional golf is actually heading, please share it with one person who loves this game, and I will see you on the next one.